So I was recently privy to a short conversation between a friend and her father. And the friend is 26 years old and the father is about 55. And he wanted to broach the topic about her having children. She's married. And he couldn't get it out. He couldn't say, have a child. So he said, Beta, आप अपनी भविष्य का थोड़ा सोच लो ना, because he was just finding it so difficult to converse with his own child about her reproduction and her future in terms of childbirth. And so I wanted to ask you first, that in a country where a man finds it very difficult to talk to his own daughter about having babies, how are you walking into rooms full of men and talking about sex?
It's a good question, and I went into it naturally. Sex is such a natural part of our lives, being, reproduction, everything. So I've never thought of sex as a culture of silence, taboo, and all of that. And for me, reproductive rights, reproductive health is what I see women engaged in much of their life. And once they have children, then taking care of the children is where their life is spent. And that's why we don't have so many judges. They give up. They give up early in life, women, not just judges, but others, because of the caregiving role, not just the caregiving role of their children, but caregiving role of the entire family, including the husband's parents and not just their own parents. It is the women who do that. So, when I'll give you two incidents which are much better way to describe. So I was in the health ministry. The entire leadership, the bureaucracy was there, and we were talking to them about season 2 of a program, a serial we made called Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hoon. It was on Doordarshan because we wanted to reach media dark areas and women whose lives and realities are very different from those present here, but you might resonate with their lives. So anyway, so when I said to the bureaucracy, so what do you want us to focus on in season 2? They said, look, we can't deal with sex as government. It's all about sex, reproduction, women's health is so related, and there is so much sex in our society, but we can't talk about it. So try and normalize sex, use of condoms, and so on. And then the additional Secretary Health gave me an example how he can't buy a condom in the district where he was the collector. He goes to other districts. And of course, we joked with him, he gets a stock. So we joked with him and said, you used condoms that have expired. Anyway, so that is, people know about the importance of sexuality in life and sex. I won't just say sex, but sexuality, sexual behavior, sexual issues, issues of sexuality, sexual empowerment, and so on. But there is not just a culture of silence, but there's a taboo, like in the case of this father. Second incident I'll give you, I met a minister from the current government in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and people thought I was mad to go and talk about how sexual behavior and sexuality of young people brings a huge burden of mental, physical, sexual, all these issues. Young people have access to misinformation. They do not have access to information. The father, leave alone the fathers, 80% of mothers in India, educated and not literate and not so literate, cannot talk to their daughters about their menstrual debut. Can you imagine the shock the young girls get when they start, if I may use a crude word, bleeding? So I showed him there was a government program that was about to be launched called Rashtriya Kishori Swasthya Karyakram. This was supposed to be a very conservative health minister. And I said to him, "Aap program roll out karenge, aapke paas to kuch hai hi nahi. And you're talking about 8 million peer educators amongst adolescents." So he said, "Aap sahi keh rahi hain." I said, "You know, we are a scheming society. We roll out schemes and there's nothing in that scheme. So you be the first minister to roll out something for adolescents which has a lot to do with their sexual, reproductive health, you know, and addiction, anemia, all of that was in it. But that's the easier bit to do." So I showed him some programs we had done, cuts from Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hu. And he looked at, I showed him on, you know, promiscuous things like even virginity, you know, how it impacts women's lives, educated or not educated, if their hymen has broken before they have their so-called first night. And he looked at all that material, and he was not at all uncomfortable, and he said, "Main Hindi mein bolungi," quoting him, "आपने भारतीय सभ्यता के दायरे में इतने महीन मुद्दों को इतने अच्छी से डील किया है, मैं अभी सेक्रेटरी को फोन करता हूँ." And he called the health secretary and said, "पूनम मुट्रेजा आई थी और वो कह रही थी वो ये हमारा प्रोग्राम बना सकते हैं." And of course I'd briefed the health secretary, I was going to see him. You always do that, you never go to the minister without. So if you want to get something done. Anyway, so we rolled out a program where you will not believe what we put in. But you know what? We didn't put in the word sex. Sex ka taboo hai. We even talk about intercourse without using the word sex. So just, you know, in Rome, do as Romans do. So we were very careful. And third, talking about sex and sexuality, you know, has to begin in the schools. The teachers are so nervous. All of you must have heard that they go through that reproductive bit, even in biology, without reading it. So we have to, you know, we think the doctors, even doctors don't talk about sex and sexuality and how, you know, it dictates people's lives in a big way. God forbid a young girl gets pregnant, whether she is married or not married, a child having another child, or dealing with the whole issue of pregnancy. So what we really, really need to do is include in the education, whether it is medical education, nursing education, and the frontline health workers. You know, when I meet Ashas and ANMs, and I talk to them, when I ask them the question, if a young girl gets pregnant at age 14, she may be raped, she may be sexually abused by a family member. No, abortion nahi karne denge. We really need to change the paradigm, and we need to first work with those who are reaching young people. And the other is, young people are accessing information from the internet. So we really must produce the best informative material that young people have access to. And we produce 6 episodes called Sex Ki Adalat. We use the word sex because PF, Population Foundation of India, was doing it online. But when the government folks saw it and they wanted to use it, we changed the name to Sach Ki Adalat. Sab kuch hi sach tha. So, you know, you have to find ways in a society that is nervous about sex, not about doing sex, but nervous about other people and sex. You know, you have to find creative ways to do it, and you can do it. Our young people, their mental health is so influenced with issues around their bodies, around their sexual attractions, love, and so on. So that's another area. We could do a revolution by having good stuff. And we have a chat bot where young people or older people can access privately through WhatsApp as well as through Facebook, which very few people, you know, especially girls. So that's why we went on WhatsApp, where they can ask any question about related to not just their sex and sexuality, anything that bothers them. So you've got artificial intelligence, instead of doing away jobs, let's create good content for our young people and for society.
Poonam, we've been talking a lot about women. It's a women's summit, but I feel one shouldn't exclude men. And there have been some wonderful interventions done where, in Bihar, for example, where they've found that when you involve men and you educate men, the results are better when it comes to reproductive rights. Not just reproductive rights, but all around rights for women. And, there have been beautiful case studies, with a young lady saying, now my husband wants me to go back to studying, he helps in the house. So there is a lot beyond the power of choice. We've talked about information right now, but also in including the entire household. So
I love that question.
Please
I love that question. See, we women, this is primarily women, right? We women have to take one responsibility of going wrong, and that is we don't bring up our boys and girls equally. And worse, we bring up our boys very badly. And that's what we are seeing, whether it's sexual or other forms of domestic violence. We also, no man is born being bad. Ke I will practice patriarchy, or he is born knowing what patriarchy is, or inequality and so on. So we have to begin by first changing our men. Hamara nara hai, and we have a campaign which I'll be happy to share. You can use it in your house, you can use it in society, the world. And our nara and our campaign is Desh Badlega Jab Mard Badlega. Right. So what do we do in that? How do we handle that? One is, the first is that we need to talk to our men. We keep talking to the women. There won't be a woman in this room who doesn't know what the problem is. That impacts, due to which she experiences, or other women experience, inequality. So the thing is that we need to change the way men think and only not address women. We need to address men. And the results are great. Just from Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hu, our serial, we heard in the newspaper, in a chota newspaper in a place called, in Gundelkhand, a place called Chhatarpur, probably the most patriarchal, conventional society. Then men have started a movement after seeing Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hu, just seeing, we hadn't contacted them. And they took a pran. That's how I learned the word pran, a vow that they will not beat their wives anymore. One, that they will go through vasectomy. Two, and three, the most important way men can play a useful role in society and be happier men, happier families, by playing a role in the house of contributing to childcare, home chores, work at home, and collaborating with their partners in making decisions and so on and so forth. So we thought this was newspapers, थोड़ा शायद उन्होंने exaggerate कर दिया हो, but अगर लिखा है तो हमको investigate करना चाहिए. We went there, and it was true, and we made a film on them, the men of Chhatarpur, and we did a big program called Enough is Enough, to end violence, with Farhan Akhtar, who runs an NGO, who's a very close partner of ours, and we believe it's important for men's voices. In any case, he has an NGO called Mard, Men Against Rape and Discrimination, and he drops everything to help us in our campaigns. He won't drop a film, obviously, but he does come and spend time. So there we gave an award to the men of Chhatarpur who started this movement. And the award was given by Shah Rukh Khan, not even Farhan Akhtar, And anyway, so the results are very good in working with men. terrific in terms of, redefining masculinity. Asli mard kya hai is what we focus on. Asli mard bahut hi alag hai from the behavior. So that's something we have to bring up our children different. We have to start addressing men. We have to change men, and we need policies. In the last session, a question was asked. We absolutely need policies, and for the next 5 years, I am going to be focusing on this Desh Badlega, Mard Badlega, but borrowing from Nordic country, I believe it's a Nordic European country, has started a masculinity commission. Within that, it is mandatory for government and private sector to give parental leave, not just pregnancy leave, but childcare leave. So if your child is ill, the woman takes leave. It's mandatory that both get equal leave. So men also then take care of the child. A woman doesn't have to drop out of her career or office and important meetings every time. So there is just so much we can learn from others, what they've done. Countries where women have experienced equality are the countries where women have been supported by the governments for child care, for 3-year pregnancy leave when needed, and so on and so forth. So we have to think of working with men much more. Yeah. Maybe you should have a conclave, male summit, and men making commitments, men talking positive masculinity, sharing, and sharing with other men. It'll help.
Poonam, our time's up, but we did talk a lot about contraceptives and the fact that it's very concerning in India that the most popular choice of contraception remains female sterilization, which is non-reversible, and it comes with its own burdens. And it's one of the reasons is that women don't have access to information. Now, we're not going to go into that, but I did want you to share why you think men shy away from condoms. Because I found that very interesting.
So 67% of the family planning in India is women going through sterilization, and that also going through sterilization in camps, like bhed, bakri, idhar se kata, usko kata, line mein laga ke so. Men, guess what is the percentage of men who practice vasectomy? Less than 1%. Since we don't have time, otherwise I would have done a quiz. Less than 1%, and the reason given is, wo weak ho jayenge. Even the woman will say, nahi, mera mard nahi karega vasectomy. Wo weak ho jayenge. Not physical weak, sexually weak is the myth and misconception we have happily lived with for generations. But I want to share why I think, apart from the myth and misconception, men do not practice not just vasectomy, any kind of form of family planning. And of course, science is loaded against women. This is a session on science, where we haven't made really we haven't made contraceptives for men. Why? Who are these scientists? All men. Come on, women scientists, let's get our act together. But finally, what I want to say is, for men, it is the responsibility of women, not just the privilege and empowerment of being able to produce a child, but family planning. Usi ka burden hai. 40% men say that publicly in government surveys. And for men, it's about sex and pleasure, and for women, it's about burden of caring. And finally, I believe that men do not practice vasectomy because men know, we are a sexually active society, however much the conservative or strange people may tell you. So they know that there are women also along with them who are sexually active. After all, they're having sex with the women, na? Extramarital sex. Ho jaye. And a woman gets pregnant. You see, when a man gets a vasectomy, or a woman, or you sneeze in your house in India, everybody knows. So aapne vasectomy karaya hua hai. and your wife gets pregnant, to pagdi to utar gayi na. So that's the main reason men don't have. But it proves that we are sexually active. They know it. We know it. So let's talk more about sex.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.